So you know what I did? I stopped the show. And I said, well, that didn't work. Everybody starts laughing.
That sort of humility comes from humble beginnings.
Real Osmond dynasty is growing tree by tree. And in 2026, Donny and Debbie are celebrating 48 years of marriage. Yet their 5 sons remain a total mystery. Why choose the shadows over the spotlight? Today we're uncovering the truth. We are revealing the very private lives of the men now guarding the Osmond legacy. But before we actually meet them, we have to look at the living census Donny keeps in his backyard. Did you have any idea he has a secret method for tracking every single one of his grandchildren? Born into the family, let's discuss the orchard census and the 2026 shift. Donny Osmond doesn't just keep a typical family tree on paper. He actually grows one in that rich Utah soil. And as of May 2026, his private forest is getting more crowded than ever. For anyone who only sees the polished performer on stage, it must be hard to picture him with dirt under his fingernails. But make no mistake, this orchard is where the real Osmond history gets written. And each time a new grandchild is born into the family, Donny carefully plants a specific fruit tree just for them. It has become a living, breathing census that helps keep the entire family grounded. And by the middle of 2026, that orchard had grown to 16 trees. Can you imagine the incredible amount of work required to maintain 16 different legacies right in your own backyard? This unique tradition is not just some cute hobby for a doting grandfather. No, it is a deliberate choice to build a sanctuary far away from all the prying eyes of the hungry media. Think about it. If you were a world-famous superstar, would you want your grandkids plastered all over the tabloids? Or would you rather plant a simple peach tree for them in a secret garden where they can simply just be kids? For Donny and Debbie, as the answer has always been the orchard. They've spent 48 years building a life that prioritizes these quiet moments over all the loud applause of a massive crowd. However, 2026 has brought a heavy shift to the family dynamic that many fans are just starting to finally realize. With the recent passing of their beloved uncles Wayne and Alan, the entire structure of the Osmond dynasty has fundamentally changed forever. The 5 sons are no longer simply the kids of a famous star. They have now officially transitioned into the role of being the official stewards of the Osmond name. They are the ones responsible for carrying the torch forward now that the original generation is finally stepping back. This transition is a huge responsibility because the Osmond brand is much more than just popular music. It's a gold standard of family values that has been polished and perfected for over 60 years. How do you think these 5 men really feel carrying a name that's been a household staple for so many decades? The immense pressure to maintain that squeaky clean professional image while living a private life is a balancing act that most people would find absolutely impossible. They have had to learn how to expertly navigate the modern world of social media and non-stop connection, all without losing the mystery their father worked so incredibly hard to protect. It is a truly unique kind of inheritance. They didn't just inherit a famous last name. They were handed a whole set of expectations that they have to live up to every single day. But the real question is how they have all managed to stay so successful in their own right without ever really relying on the family's incredible musical fame. With 16 grandkids to protect and a huge legacy to manage, the eldest son was forced to become the family's #1 strategist. But how exactly does the son of a pop icon end up running a massive marketing empire? Instead of just starting another boy band, the strategist and the healer. See, being the firstborn of a legend comes with a very specific choice to make. You can either spend your entire life chasing the ghost of your father's fame, or you decide to build a kingdom all of your own where the cameras simply can't find you. For Donny Clark Osmond Jr., who was born back in 1979, that decision seemed to come pretty naturally. While almost everyone expected the eldest son of the world's biggest teen idol to grab a microphone, Don Jr. chose a different kind of power. He became the quiet strategist working behind the curtain. He realized from a very young age that while his famous father owned the stage, someone else had to own the strategy that kept the Osmond name relevant in a fast-paced digital world. Today, he is the driving force behind a company called Ocom. You probably won't see his face on a concert poster anytime soon, but his marketing genius is what protects the Osmond brand from the shadows. He's not just some son who inherited a name, he is a professional who understands exactly how these flashy brands and loud personalities secretly operate when they're behind the scenes. He ensures that his father's public legacy stays perfectly polished and totally professional without ever having to step into the blinding neon lights of a Vegas residency himself. It's truly a fascinating move because it shows that he understands the mechanics and the madness of fame better than almost anyone. He deliberately chose to be the architect rather than the main attraction. Do you think it takes more talent to perform for a huge crowd or to be the one who makes sure that crowd actually shows up in the first place? Then we have Jeremy, the second-born son, who arrived in 1981. Now, if Don Jr. is the family strategist, Jeremy is often seen as the total rebel of the bunch, but not in the scandalous way you'd expect. He didn't rebel by acting out or making scandalous headlines for the press. Instead, his form of rebellion was choosing a lifestyle that was completely ordinary. He traded the performance stage for a physical therapy clinic. Jeremy Osmond just walked away from all that show business glamour and the spotlight of the entertainment world to become a healer, earning his doctorate degree and dedicating his entire life to helping other people get better, physically heal from their injuries. Now, in 2026, Jeremy is hitting a milestone that truly highlights just how different his own world is. World is from the one his famous father occupied at that same age. He is currently watching his very own son, Dylan, accomplish something amazing. Complete a very important mission over in Uruguay. This is a monumental moment for the Osmond family because it actually represents a third generation of Osmonds who are discovering their true purpose through selfless service instead of the entertainment business. This is some solid proof that demonstrates just how down-to-earth these men really are. They are not chasing Instagram likes or looking for their next viral moment. They are focused on making a real-world impact. Jeremy helps one person walk again while his son is busy serving an entire community. A community thousands of miles from home. When you compare that to the life of a huge pop star, it really makes you wonder which kind of legacy is more impressive, is actually more difficult to build and leave behind. It's honestly pretty inspiring to witness how these two very different brothers have balanced things out. The heavy weight that comes with their famous family name. Jeremy swapped the stage for a quiet physical therapy clinic, and it really gets you thinking about the intense pressure of the global spotlight. I mean, do you think it's more difficult to perform for thousands of adoring fans or to quietly sit in a quiet room and patiently help a single person find the strength to stand and walk again? Which one of those life legacies would you personally choose? Was standing in their shoes. The very different ways Don Jr. and Jeremy have navigated their adult lives gives us a fascinating look at how the Osmond dynasty is truly evolving here in 2026. They are not simply living off puppy love royalties. These guys are out there working real jobs, raising their own families, and actively staying out of the nasty gossip columns. They've perfectly mastered the art of being famous adjacent without getting sucked in, letting that overwhelming fame consume their lives. They are the guardians of a specific kind of reality that the mainstream media almost always ignores, just skips right over. So while Don and Jeremy focus on the serious side of life with business and medicine, the middle sons found their own path, found a unique way to keep the family music alive. But get this, one of them is actually doing it for the most famous cartoon mouse in the world. The creative pulse just keeps going. Music is definitely in the Osmond family blood, but for Brandon and Chris, the sound of their success doesn't always include a roaring standing ovation. And that famous mouse we mentioned earlier, well, it turns out to be the secret key to one brother's career, Chris's entire career. But before we dive into the wonderful world of Disney, we really need to look at the other brother who decided to keep his music safely tucked away inside the four walls of his own house. Brandon Osmond, born in 1985, is the perfect example of a person who found a way to perfectly balance that massive family legacy with a completely normal life out in Provo, Utah. During the day, he's totally immersed in the world of advertising and creative design, using his artistic spark to build up brands instead of his own fan clubs. He is not out there desperately looking for some record deal or even trying to top the pop music charts. But that absolutely does not mean the music has stopped for him. In fact, Brandon actually keeps his jam sessions reserved strictly for his four growing sons, creating a totally private soundtrack for his family that the general public will simply never get to hear. This is a very deliberate choice he's made to keep his art personal and grounded in his regular home life. He has mentioned in the past that he absolutely loves the creative process itself, but he doesn't really love the media circus that comes with being a professional performer. Do you think it's a massive relief to have all that talent, but carry none of the immense pressure to sell out stadiums? For him, Brandon, the real win is being able to provide a very stable, quiet life for his children, while also still managing to be the absolute coolest dad, with a guitar in the entire neighborhood. Then, of course, we have Chris, who was born in 1990 and is probably the most publicly visible of all five. Of the sons in 2026, if you're a fan of reality television, you definitely recognize him from his appearance on a popular show, on the competition show Claim to Fame. That was a truly massive moment for him because he was the only Osmond son to really step into the spotlight and let the world finally see him as his own person, apart from his father's shadow. Even then, he played it smart. He never led with his famous last name. He just let everyone guess and wonder about who he was, which is a total pro move. But even with that very public TV appearance, Chris has kept his most important projects tightly under wraps. In 2025, his life changed in a huge way with the birth of his little daughter, Rivy, James. This sweet little girl represents a whole new chapter for the Osmond family tree, and Chris has been very vocal about how much he values these moments. He values these family milestones over any professional award. His career, though, is equally fascinating when you look closely, because for years he has been doing top secret work for Disney. He contributes to the magic behind the scenes, working in both music and post-production without ever needing his name up in bright lights. Just imagine working on a huge Disney soundtrack and nobody at work even knows that your famous dad is the Donny Osmond. Is that not the ultimate professional power move, or what? It truly makes you wonder about the intense pressure of carrying that famous name. Do you believe it's more satisfying to be the huge star that everybody recognizes, or to be the secret talent behind the scenes? A global powerhouse like Disney Chris has managed to walk the line between both worlds, appearing on television while keeping his real work totally private. Real work completely behind the scenes. He gives audiences just enough of a glimpse to be curious, but he is saving the very best parts for himself and his immediate family. He has proved that you can have all the talent of a superstar without needing the constant chaotic noise of the spotlight. Photographers chasing you into the grocery store. But what about the youngest son? The one who was raised after the initial madness had passed. Osmond frenzy had finally settled into a permanent legacy. How is the youngest of the family handling his unique role in all of this? Being the father of the 16th grandchild, the anchor, and the future Joshua Osmond may be the youngest of his brothers, but his position is critical. In 2026, he carries the heaviest burden of all by keeping the family's core values alive and well in our modern era. Fast-paced digital world. Born in 1998, Josh was raised in a world where the name Osmond was already more of a legendary piece of history than a fresh tabloid headline. This gave him a very different perspective on what it really means to protect a brand while living a totally real life. A life that feels completely authentic. He's not simply the baby of the family anymore, he has now become the essential anchor for the next generation. Next generation of this famous dynasty. We first witnessed this down-to-earth approach back in 2020 at his backyard wedding to his bride Summer Felstead. Now, while some other celebrity families would have sold the rights to their wedding pictures to a major magazine or maybe hosted a huge, over the top, flashy event, Josh instead chose a simple and intimate ceremony right in his own backyard. This was a clear message that for him, youngest Osmond family comes way before the cameras. This commitment to having a normal life became much clearer. Even clearer in 2025 with the arrival of his son, Carson Dean. With young Carson's birth, Josh officially stepped into the role of a legacy carrier. Planter making sure that the famous Osmond name continues to thrive in a manner that is quiet, incredibly respectful, and always deeply personal. It is truly fascinating to see how all the brothers have managed the passing of the torch, with the original band members like Alan and Wayne now moving into their quieter retirement years. The original Osmond era is slowly disappearing from the public view. So do you think Josh and his brothers are making the right move by keeping things so private? Or do you secretly hope that they would all get back together and start a new band for the 2020s? It's a tough choice, but when you look closely at the evidence, at how truly happy they all seem in their private lives, it becomes very hard to argue with the results. They are not hiding away from the world because they are ashamed, but they are very intentionally planting themselves in normal careers and their local communities to ensure the name lasts. Ensure the name survives another 100 years without the total burnout of fame. And the thinking behind this strategy is actually quite brilliant. By deciding to become physical therapists, skilled real estate agents, and marketing experts, these men have effectively removed the target. Removed the giant target that's usually painted on the backs of famous families. They are able to enjoy the history of their father's amazing success. Success without the incredible stress of having to maintain it. They have brilliantly figured out how to own the legacy without letting. The legacy owns them. It is a masterclass in privacy that most modern influencers could definitely learn a lot from. A thing or two from. As we picture the 16 trees in that beautiful Utah orchard that Donny so often talks about, with each one representing a beloved grandchild, we really have to ask ourselves what the true secret to their 50-year survival actually is. Because it is not just about the music or even the talent. It's about the deep roots they have firmly planted in the rich dirt of everyday life. But as we now wrap up this look at these 5 brothers, there is one last piece to the puzzle that finally explains how they all managed to stay so incredibly close, unified. So what was the secret ingredient that Donny and Debbie actually used to keep 5 boys from ever falling into all of the typical traps of Hollywood? Why did their strategy work? Most Hollywood dynasties crumble under the massive weight of the spotlight. The massive spotlight. So how exactly did Donny's sons become the rare exception to that rule? It is a question that really fascinates people. Fascinates anyone who has ever watched other celebrity families completely fall apart right in the public eye. To truly understand why Donny's sons are doing so incredibly well in 2026, we first have to take a quick trip back in time to the wild 1970s. That was the era of true Osmond mania, a chaotic time when Donny couldn't so much as walk down the street without being mobbed by fans. Thousands of screaming fans. The whole scene was flashy, it was incredibly loud, and it was relentless. But Donny personally lived through the sheer exhaustion of that entire era and decided that he wanted something totally different for his own kids, own children. He and his wife Debbie created a parenting philosophy that was all about staying in the shadows. Instead of pushing their sons onto the stage the second they could walk, they intentionally kept them completely removed from the entertainment industry until they were already grown men. This crucial decision gave them the priceless opportunity to develop their own identities as actual people first, rather than simply being known as Donny Osmond's kid. By the time the boys were old enough to pick their own career paths, they already had a solid foundation that didn't rely on fame at all. Because of this protective bubble, the sons then transitioned into adulthood with a healthy sense of reality that most child stars unfortunately never get to experience. Just think back to all those old television specials. Think back to those old clips of the Osmond brothers on a variety show. You can see that classic spark and undeniable talent in their eyes. But when you look at Donny's sons today, do you see that same fire, even though they aren't performing on a Vegas stage? It certainly seems like the answer is yes, but it's channeled into completely different things. Whether it's physical therapy, marketing, or raising the next generation, they possess that same Osmond drive, just without the blinding neon lights. They figured out that the most powerful thing to own in 2026 isn't a gold record, but a private life you can genuinely enjoy. For them, the shadows aren't where you go to hide, the shadows are where you go to grow. While the rest of the world is desperately chasing likes and viral moments on Instagram, the Osmond brothers are finding true peace in the quiet moments. They have masterfully proven that you can inherit a legendary name without also inheriting the chaos that usually comes with it. It really makes you wonder, if more celebrity parents followed this shadow rule, would we see fewer Hollywood tragedies? The undeniable proof of their success isn't sitting in a trophy case, but is found in the simple fact that all 5 brothers are still incredibly close, grounded, and thriving. When we look at this family today, it's clear they've somehow unlocked a hidden level of reality. They have the legacy, the incredible stories, and the talent, but they also get to keep their sanity. This is a rare win in a world that usually demands every single piece of you. But as we wrap up this journey into the private lives of the Osmond sons, there is one final question left to answer about the future of this famous family. The Osmond sons have proven that the greatest claim to fame is simply alive, well lived off camera. So what do you think, is staying private the ultimate power move for celebrity kids, or maybe should? They have shared all their incredible talents with the world. Go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more.